It's a new year in the colonies. January 17th, 1781. Morgan's flying army almost seems like a fleeing army. It's heading away from Banastre Tarleton as fast as it can, and the soldiers in the ranks are feeling a little bit defeated because they want to get after him. Well, they get it. Right here, at this place that I'm standing right now, at the Battle of Cowpens, this field is where Banastre Tarleton meets his checkmate, right here in South Carolina. Now, before we get going on the story of the Battle of Cowpens, we have to talk about the Prelude, which happened in a place out here in these woods where the sign's posted. It is the Battle of Hammond Store, or Old Hammond Store, or Hammond's Old Store, whichever way you want to say it. There's several different ways to say it. But there looks like there might be a path out here in these woods. And I'm going to try to see if I can't get out here and see if there's anything that we can actually take a look at out here on this battlefield. But at this location, this is where William Washington's men would come and basically massacre a bunch of local people who were part of the Loyalist group out here. And even the sign out here talks about this being a local civil war. We're talking local militia men for the Continentals, for the Patriots, fighting against local militiamen for the Crown. That's basically neighbor versus neighbor. It's a pretty crazy situation that happened out here in South Carolina and in many other states across this East Coast during the American Revolution. But eventually it leads to an independent nation called the United States of America. Now, you can't see very much out here in this densely wooded area, but off in this area is where the battlefield is located, and it's pretty far distance from here. It was a continuance of that Civil War, like we said, in the 96th District. The Patriot forces were led by William Washington with 80 mounted Continental Light Dragoons. And there was also an additional 200 local mounted riflemen led by James McCall. And these militiamen consisted of the Little River District, modern-day Lawrence County, led by Colonel Joseph Hayes, the 2nd Spartan Regiment, led by Colonel Thomas Brandon, and the Lower 96th Regiment, modern-day Newberry County, led by Major Samuel Hammond. There's no Loyalist accounts of what occurred in this battle, but the Patriots accounts state that there were 250 Loyalists present out here. While Loyalists from North Carolina and Georgia may have been present, most participants state that the Loyalists consisted of Captain Thomas Pearson with Little River Loyal Militia, Colonel Benjamin Wofford with the Spartanburg Loyal Militia, and Captain Patrick Cunningham with the 96th Loyalist Militia. So essentially, these Loyalist parties that are out here, they're raiding the homes and the stores and the warehouses of all the people that are living in the local area. And they're causing a lot of problems for the families that are out here. And they're doing it simply because they can. The Patriot forces know that this is happening, and Dan Morgan has been ordered to spirit up the people. So he sends William Washington, the Light Dragoons out here, and he sends out the militiamen and other local forces to come out here and fight. And when William Washington crosses over the Bush River, he immediately charges those Loyalist forces that have actually stopped here for a, what the sign says is a noonday break. He charges those forces and catches them completely off guard. But what occurs here is actually a slaughter. there's no real fighting. They try to put up an effort, which turns into a full-out rout and a run. And as soon as they start to run, men are getting slaughtered left and right. The sign accounts that 150 men were killed out here, or 150 were killed or wounded. I've heard something along the lines of maybe 50 men were actually killed in the vicinity of this area. And that shortly thereafter, because of this fight and the place at Fort Williams, that we're going to see if we can't find a sign for that, somewhere around 1,000 militiamen are raised up from the local areas to continue the fight with the Patriot forces, thanks to the efforts out here and at Fort Williams. One of the most significant battles in the American Revolution took place right here behind me at this location, at this national park. And today we're going to go out there and we're going to talk about the battle, why this place is so significant, and why it should have received more attention during the Ken Burns documentary. We're here at Cowpens National Battlefield. I just want to pause real quick at this location because of the sign that's right behind me. Off in the distance there, you can see the Green River Road, which was a very significant road to this area. It went to the Cowpens. Militiamen would meet over there, and they would deploy from this location to various areas to harass the British Army. Matter of fact, this same road was used for not only the Battle of Cowpens, but it was used for the Battle of Kings Mountain. And this sign is supposed to tell you that information. But if you look at that sign, it is destroyed. It is completely roached. And it's from years of sitting out here, not being cleaned, not being attended to, and it was never replaced. Now, I know maybe it's a funding issue, I'm not sure. Maybe it's a volunteer issue, I have no idea. But I know with all of this push to recognize the 250th anniversary, especially with the Ken Burns documentary and the millions of dollars that went into making something like that, I think that we could spend some funding out here to take care of some of these signs so that when the kids walk these fields, they will get to know what happened here. If these signs are gone, that's lost history. That's stuff that could be teaching people on a regular basis out here, where a park ranger can't stand out here and tell them the story. For a battle preservationist, that's a sad moment, especially for one that grew up coming to this field. One of the first things that you walk up on out here is Robert Scruggs' house. Robert Scruggs was a yeoman farmer out here with his family, and his wife, Catherine, I believe was her name. And they owned a house that was right here in this area. And I think the foundation of this house, the bricks and stuff here, are from the original house. I'm pretty sure the majority of it has been redone over the years. But it's one of the first things you see when you come up through that Green River Road out here. This is a typical log house from the early 1800s, which is when they lived out here. This house wouldn't have been here during the Battle of Cowpens. But out here in this area, Mr. Scruggs would have raised up wheat and corn and various different types of crops as a yeoman farmer, and made a hard scrabble life out here with his wife and his children. It's pretty neat to see this type of stuff when you come to an old colonial area like Cowpens itself, and a road that would have definitely been used by farmers throughout the area to move their cattle back and forth and probably go to market and trade and stuff like that. This is pretty neat. The Green River Road itself runs directly in front. You can see it here going all the way off into the park. Now we're going to take that in. Where I'm standing right now, the dragoons and the British soldiers would have come in from this direction. And That would be right off back here. They're actually coming in and moving their way towards the battlefield just ahead. Back there, Dan Morgan has decided to choose the Cowpens as his battlefield. Now, to give you a little bit more of the orientation where we're at, off in that distance out there, that is the Green River Road coming through here, and that is also where you can walk in the park when the road itself is closed. This is where the British Dragoons and the Loyalist Army is coming through into this location to fight Dan Morgan and his men. They're actually going to push off in this direction over here, and Dan Morgan and his men are just on the other side of those trees. We're about to go walk over there to that part of the battlefield and talk a little bit about the positioning of the men as we go along and discuss the battle too, and the double envelopment that may or may not have been by design. So Dan Morgan, as part of the plan, has been ordered to the west side of the Catawba, and he's met by Brigadier General Davidson and Brigadier General Sumter of the militia. Now, earlier we just talked about commanding officers having issues with militia leaders. Well, Sumter is one of those militia leaders. He has a chip on his shoulders, and he believes that he has sent Morgan down, Nathaniel Greene has, to basically boss Sumter around. Sumter takes exception to it, and he tells his officers in his militia unit not to follow orders from Dan Morgan. Dan Morgan then writes back to Nathaniel Greene telling him of the situation. Well, instead of being fire and brimstone like some military commanders are, Nathaniel Greene writes back to Dan Morgan and tells him, you need to find a way to work this out. Essentially, try to get this man on your side because he has a lot of pull in the militia, and we do not want to piss him off, and we do not want the rest of the militia to refuse to follow orders or to refuse to fight for you, which is exactly what Dan Morgan figures out. He figures out a way to get Sumter to work with him in this fight, and somehow this all works out. I just thought I'd flip this camera around, and from the distance over there you can see the Scruggs house. But in this entire area here, this is the rallying point for the Highlanders and the British Dragoons and the Royal forces that are out here in this fight. This is a pretty amazing scene to see. Most people walk down the battlefield trail, which is fine. It covers the Patriot forces right out there very well. It talks about all the fight that happens out here too. But if you really want to stand in the spot where everything really begins, it's right here on this road, back in this area. Those soldiers are coming up through here, and Dan Morgan knows it, and the militia see them coming. Imagine, if you will, you're not a professionally trained soldier, and you're standing in the front lines, and you see this monster of an army come towards you. And though the forces were small, they're very impressive. The way they march, the way they carry their weapons, how they're being ordered. The Dragoons are extremely impressive in the way that they handle themselves on their horses. So it's a very intimidating thing to see for a militiaman. So here's a really good sign on the battlefield that tells, I guess, the story of the soldiers that are fighting out here for the British and the way that they would have looked in uniform. So we have the private Highlanders here, the 7th Fusiliers, the Royal Artillery, the 16th Light Infantry, and then Legion Cavalry. All of these men have very distinct looking uniforms, as you can see on the sign here as we go across. The green uniform also helps to identify loyalists loyal to the crown. It's a pretty mixed group of guys out here in this battlefield. And they are coming in from this direction, off towards Thickety Mountain, way off in the distance there. Well, we're out here at Cowpens Battlefield, and I'm talking low right now. JD, right over there, is setting up to make himself a video. And he is putting together something here about the Battle of the Cowpens, and I'm kind of watching his habits, if you will, the things that he does in order to set up his videos. It's pretty neat to see a person at work that knows what he's doing, really. I mean, this guy's been putting out exceptional videos for quite a while now, and he's immediately picked up on things like lighting and stuff like that when we were talking earlier in our video. So it's pretty cool to see.
You're shooting into the sun. Do you want?
Yeah, that's fine.
Is that fine, or do you want? I'm sorry. I'm always thinking like a camera guy. I'm sorry. Okay, so I'm sorry. What was your question again?
So when you go to places like this, places you've never been before, you know, what do you take away from these places?
A lot of times, what I'm doing is, looking for some of the individual stories. And here at Cowpens, you're talking about one of the major engagements that led to the birth of this nation. So what I get out of a place like this, and it's different, no matter where you go, whether it's a World War I battlefield, World War II, or something like that. But for me, looking at a place like this, I kind of take away an appreciation for how tough these guys were. There's no motor transport, there's nothing like that. These guys are walking everywhere they go, so they're walking like 1,000 miles. So it kind of, one thing that I take away from it is you can see how tough and resilient they were, and realize that they were just men. So if there's a toughness and a resiliency that can get them through difficult times like this, well, gives inspiration for others, in modern times, that you can get through difficult circumstances as well. Called the Battle of Cowpens. Well, today we are at the Cowpens Battlefield, and we're going to talk a little bit about what happened here in January of 1781. So looking in this direction along the Green River Road, on the morning of January the 17th, well, way out beyond where we can see right now, Daniel Morgan would have had some pickets set up, and they would have run into the guys from Banastre Tarleton's command. So Tarleton, this is a super aggressive guy, and he is known for being ruthless and has gone about the country. He says that he's handling these people from the colonies with the fire and the sword. So these guys from these pickets are going to come back along this road, and Tarleton is going to be going hard after them. And right out here, well, this is the battlefield that Daniel Morgan has chosen to greet Banastre Tarleton and his men. And essentially what you are going to see, we're going to walk through this. You're going to have 3 lines of defense. So this is going to be a defense in depth. So on the first line, which we're going to take a look at here in just a moment, you are going to have some sharpshooters. Okay, so they are going to engage first. And then in the second line, you're going to have militiamen. And then on the third line, these are going to be the Continental regulars, guys from Delaware and Maryland who had been at Camden. and had survived that ordeal. They're coming back, and they're going to be able to get some revenge against Tarleton. And essentially what they're doing is they're drawing Tarleton in, and they're going to use his aggressive nature against him and basically catch him in a trap.
Okay, so now we're getting into the thick of this battle. You have those sharpshooters who are falling back into this position, and you have the militia sitting back here, and they are being told, get them within killing distance. Essentially what that means is they want these soldiers to wait to fire until those British come over here within about 75 yards of their position. They're waiting for them to get close enough to make sure that the majority of those rounds are going to hit something or someone out there in that field. Meanwhile, on the other side, those British soldiers that JD just talked about, coming up in this position, they're raw recruits. They don't really know what's going on. Their officers are down. They see those soldiers falling back and they start getting confused. They start thinking that they're about to win the day. These militia up here are waiting, and as soon as they come up, they let off that first volley. There's a soldier that was 17 years old out here that explained what that first volley sounded like, and he said it was pop, 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 and then one glorious sound all at once. That was the sound that happened here in this position at Cowpens Battlefield. January 16th, Dan Morgan devises a plan here. He's got his men out here, and he's able to get them some rest in this location, which is critical, because all that night, from about 3 a.m. on until January 17th, Banastre Tarleton's men, on the other hand, are slugging through mud, and they're trying to get to this location as fast as they can. They're wore out and they're tired from the march. Morgan holds a council, a war council, if you will, with his officers. And there's some grumblings about standing here and fighting. Some of the officers are questioning the position with the river to their back, but nonetheless, they all support the fight and they're ready to go. That night, Dan Morgan shows what kind of leader he is when he goes around these campfires to these militiamen. So at this location I'm at right now, most certainly the artillery would have been placed for Banastre Tarleton and his men. But what's more important about this side of the road here, all behind me, Banastre Tarleton's men start to come out from the wood works over here, all the woods that are around us from this road. And the first thing that these Continentals can see over here, and that these militiamen can see, are those green outfits of those soldiers, and then the red right after them. James Collins states, about sunrise, the enemy came in full view. The sight to me, at least, seemed somewhat overwhelming. That's what these men are facing. They're seeing this very well performing unit moving from the woods into the open fields. They are starting to be very apprehensive and get the fear of, oh my gosh, combat's coming. This is about to happen. We have to stand our grounds. One of the other men, Thomas Young, recalled that morning that it was so bitterly cold, he was actually having to slap his hands against each other to try to get some warmth in his hands, standing out here on these fields. Other soldiers were doing the exact same thing. And just to give you an idea where we're coming from here, those dragoons are coming out of the woods over here. This is the Green River Road that we're talking about, and they're all filing out into these fields. The battlefield for Cowpens, as far as the Patriots are concerned, would be over there. That's where the men are lined up. And if you see just kind of off in the distance where the land rises, this is where our sharpshooters are going to come into view for the British and the loyalists as they're coming up to this position. Those sharpshooters are specifically designed to be there to not only cushion the blow as these soldiers are coming into view and take pop shots at these units, but they are also here to pick off as many officers as they possibly can before they get to their lines, to create disorder, confusion, and all kinds of havoc within these loyalist and British lines here of Banastre Tarleton's army. So now let's set up the lines here a little bit and let's talk about what we have. We have those sharpshooters that are out front that are going to take the initial shock of the attack that's coming. And then they're going to fall back to the militia, who are then ordered to give at least 2 shots, if not 3 shots. Some of the soldiers record in their writings that it was supposed to be 3 shots and then fall back. The militia are going to fall back to the Continentals, who are also flanked by those militia we were talking about that are basically regulars. And then they're going to give a strong fight from their militia and their lines, be supported on the flanks by those militiamen, and then, if need be, they are going to be supported again by the militia that have fallen behind them, along with Washington's men who are in the rear, who's supposed to come out and around to the left to attack the cavalry of Banastre Tarleton, those dragoons that we're talking about earlier. Off in the distance out here, you can see the Green River Road heading down in this direction here. Way off in the distance is the camp for the Americans, the Patriots that are out here. And that camp, that night, leading up to the 17th, is where Dan Morgan's actually going around his militia and having discussions with them almost all night long, having them talk with them and joke with them, you know, and just basically trying to keep their spirits up and telling them that all they have to do is give those 3 shots and go back home. And it's an easy thing for them to do. So we're going to talk a little bit about battlefield orientation here at this position. Off in the distance there, you can see the ridge line as we come up on the Green River Road. What you would have seen out here on that ridge line is kind of at an angle from each position. You're going to have those sharpshooters, those skirmishers that are placed out front to kind of cushion the blow as the British are coming up. Those sharpshooters are taking those pop shots like we talked about. Now, as the dragoons come up, they are actually going into this position initially to attack, and they're seeing what the enemy force is like. Well, when they get here, they are being hit by those pop shots, and then Dan Morgan's army is essentially agitating Tarleton. Tarleton is incensed by it, and off in this direction as he's coming up, he has those 7th Fusiliers that we're talking about, and he's going to send them into action out here almost immediately. They are center of the line, heading up this way, kind of off to the left, and you have dragoons that are flanking on either side, along with light infantry of the British Legion here. And then you also have the Highlanders kind of off and into the rear on the left-hand side, facing or coming up from this road. This is the position of those British soldiers that we're talking about. Artillery piece, 7th Fusiliers either side for center, and then you have dragoons along with that light infantry and more dragoons. Now the night before, Morgan is going around those militiamen, and one of the boys records in his diary that Morgan tells him, "Just hold your head up, boys, give them 3 fires and you will be free. Then when you return home, how the old folks will bless you and the girls will kiss you for your gallant conduct." That's Daniel Morgan's words right there to those men. He's trying to encourage them to keep their courage up as they're fighting out here to save themselves and to save these colonies, to make them independent. So now we're headed up into the position where those North Carolina and Georgia militia sharpshooters are. That day in the morning, Morgan comes riding out to these front lines and he's talking to his men. He's telling them jokes. He's asking them who's the crack shot, which unit's going to be the best, who's going to kill the most British soldiers out here. He's kind of making it a competition between the 2 units to see who will perform the best out here. And in that way, he's kind of being a part of the boys, if you will. He's acting like he's part of their ranks, part of their team. It makes them like him more. It makes them want to follow his orders. And this is the kind of man we're dealing with here. Dan Morgan is that type of leader. He's the guy that all of them feel associated with. They feel like he's part of the team. So it's really important for him to be that kind of person for these men here on this field, to give them courage and strength when they're facing such an overwhelming enemy coming up that road. So now from this vantage point, the skirmishers are all placed out in these fields here. You can kind of imagine them off at an angle like this and like this. and they're dotted throughout the landscape. They are sharpshooters facing the enemy, trying to hit as many officers as they can and take out as many soldiers before those soldiers get to this position where we are standing at right now. On this battlefield, you can kind of see they have a little skirmisher shadow there hanging out on the field, kind of give you a bit of an idea of what would have been placed out here on this field. It's pretty neat. So now we're walking from those skirmisher lines right there behind us. These guys have done their jobs. They popped off those shots. And as a matter of fact, from this line, not only have they done their job, they've exceeded their job. They've killed at least 11 of the officers out here in these ranks. They're creating crazy havoc all over this field. They're doing a lot more than what was expected of them. And because of that, it's starting to take a real big effect on that army back there facing the Patriots. Now the militia peel off, or these skirmishers peel off, and they start heading around in either direction towards the militia to get behind their ranks. Some of them accidentally run back towards the militia. We're only talking about maybe 150, 200 yards here in between. So it's pretty amazing how short of a distance this is in between these ranks. So I'm now in the lines of the militia here with our friend the Crow up there yelling at me. If you can imagine this imaginary line here, it runs down this way, facing off in that direction. Now these militia are not very well trained men. They know that. They're under Pickens. And Morgan knows that these men might be able to get off 1 or 2 shots, maybe 3 at most, and then they're going to fall back. He's told them, give me 3 shots. Take those 3 shots and then fall back to the Continental's line. So that's what these men are here to do. They're to face the enemy as they're coming up with those bayonets, and they are told, wait until they get to within killing distance. So we're talking about 75 yards here with these muskets. They're seeing those men slowly come up in this direction, little at a time, bayonets fixed, ready to come into this fight and charge. Then the order's given. The whole time the officers are out here yelling at them, do not shoot, do not fire. Then finally these British come up into this position and the loyalists are here and they're given the order to fire. A young boy at the age of 17 describes the sound out here where at first it's pop, 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 and then one glorious boom across the landscape of when the militia finally let off that first round. So now these 7th Fusiliers are coming up here. They're missing a lot of officers. So is that Light Infantry. The Dragoons are also in the mix here a little bit, and the Highlanders are right behind them. When those Fusiliers see these skirmishers peel off and go back towards Continentals, they start to mistake that for an all-out retreat. Tarleton himself thinks that he's got the day won, and he sends those men forward. Well, at first it's an unorganized mess where these men are just running at random towards the lines over here. And then finally, those British soldiers, the loyalists, start making a charge for this direction. Now the 7th we're talking about are raw recruits. They really aren't that well trained. And they're heading into a trap. Tarleton and everybody here doesn't know it. So as these guys get over here with the fixed bayonets, they're about to run right into the Continentals and those well-trained militia that are on the flanks. So let's talk about this Continental line that's out here. We're going to draw this imaginary line here for the Continental soldiers that are facing this direction. And what you're going to see here is you're going to see those skirmishers on the end from Virginia on both sides. They are basically placed off in this direction and off out in this direction over here. And they are that well-trained militia that has about a year's worth of experience under their belt. They act almost like regulars. Then you have the Continentals in the middle here that are from John Eager Howard's unit, and they are from Maryland and Delaware. So imagine them kind of placed off in the center here, facing the British. Well, as the British come up, their ranks in the Continentals start to become a little bit overwhelmed on the sides. With that, Howard is basically ordered to refuse the line, which means his men are supposed to turn on the flank there about a 90 degree to refuse the line in order to protect themselves from being hit from an awful lot of fire. What ends up happening is instead of turning at a 90, they end up turning at a 180. And the men think that they are heading in this direction in an orderly retreat. But instead, they are supposed to turn about and face the enemy. Morgan sees this. He comes up to the lines. He asks Howard, what's going on here? Why did this happen? Howard's got nothing for him. He has no idea why these men are now making an orderly retreat. So they get him back to what is now known as Morgan's Hill. They reform the lines and they have them face about. The moment that they have them face about, those men back there think that they have these guys on the run, and they are charging headlong into Continentals that are about to flip back around, aim their weapons and fire. In almost like maybe 50 yards. They fire, hit that enemy so hard that they are staggered back. They start breaking apart. They don't know what they're doing out here. Then the cavalry comes around. The cavalry is out here to meet up with some of these cavalry units and dragoons. But what ends up happening in this position here is you have the double envelopment that they're talking about. The lines are overrun on either side. These soldiers with Tarleton's men are now almost completely encircled. They are trapped in the middle and they have nowhere to go, nowhere to hide. And the 71st Highlanders that we were talking about are charging right in behind them, and they're caught up in the mix too. The day, within less than an hour here at Cowpens, is over. The Patriots have won this victory, and they've won it quickly. And Tarleton is running in that direction, getting off of this field so that he's not caught up and captured with the rest of his men. In the 1850s, the men and women of this country are facing a lot. There was a talk of secession, and it's happening all over the South. The people are really talking about breaking off from the federal government or the Union, and they want to become their own independent nation, if you will. But it's not an independent nation, it's a confederation. They want to have their own separate individual governments. That's the way that they see it. And wrapped up in that problem at that time happens to be a unit called Washington's Light Infantry. Washington's Light Infantry are men that are composed of soldiers in Charleston. They don't know what to do. They're looking for a project to try to bring them back together. Well, that project just happens to be right here at Cowpens Battlefield. And a lot of people walk past it, overlook it, and until recently, I honestly didn't know much about it myself, except for the fact that soldiers during the Indian-American Civil War actually came out here and viewed this monument before heading south on Stoneman's raid. So Washington's Light Infantry starts back in the early 1800s, and they were involved in almost every major conflict in the United States leading up to the early 1900s. They eventually fold into what is now the National Guard here in South Carolina. This monument right here, however, is a project by their commander, Mr. Hatch, the man that's in charge of them. And the reason why was because of the sectionalism. These guys were ripping each other apart over the question of slavery and states' rights and secession and things like that. So he wanted to unify his men. He wanted to bring them together. They marched from Spartanburg to this location where they roughly believed Tarleton first clashed with Washington's men. At first, they were associated with George Washington, but then they started to be more associated with William Washington, George's cousin. As they march along here, they bring things with them, an account of the Battle of Cowpens, bricks from a specific house, water from Utah Springs, and they actually put it into the base of this monument. Also, at the top of this monument, there was once a gold eagle that adorned the top. And these men started what would be the first markings of the Battle of Cowpens. After this monument was placed here, eventually a movement was made to preserve and secure this field for all time. And really, a lot of American Revolutionary War battlefields were not preserved. This was the first real act of it here at the Battle of Cowpens. And on this field today, this is the only monument, one of the originals, here, marking or identifying anything But the greatest part about this is the fact that it connects two periods in history. Not just the Battle of Cowpens, but the period right before the American Civil War and even after the Civil War. American Civil War soldiers with the Union Army were on the Stoneman's Raid, and they were making their way through Chesnee, South Carolina, and they end up here where the Battle of Cowpens took place, where that monument back there, the Washington Light Infantry Monument, is placed in commemoration of the 75th anniversary of that battle. Those soldiers dismount, get out here, and they actually take a respite here in this field, and they take a look at that monument. It's kind of an amazing period in time to think about. It's the very close to the very end of the American Civil War that these men are out here. This country has spent 4 years ripping itself apart and killing hundreds of thousands of people across the nation. And these men are staring at that monument that was built by men from South Carolina in commemoration of the American Revolution and the independence of this nation. It's really so very ironic. But it's one of the coolest monuments. Even though it's small, the fact that it connects so much history here, it's one of the coolest monuments that I know of. So to close this whole battle up, we're going to head over to another direction here at the other end of the field, where Tarleton's actually retreating, and Washington's cavalry is going to meet some of the cavalry at the other end. And there's a story out there that's a legend in the area about a young servant, either man or boy, an enslaved person at that time, who ends up saving Washington's life here on this field. We're going to talk about it over there. Out here at the end of this field, just before you get onto the Green River Road heading in that direction towards the Patriots, there's a sign that, from my recollection, has always been a version of this sign out here telling the same story, which is essentially the cavalrymen get into a skirmish out here near the end of the battle. And William Washington's over here trying to attack the ones that are left behind. When he gets here, he gets into a precarious situation. A young servant that according to some accounts, is a servant of Washington himself, actually rides up and saves Washington's life during this fight. And you can see here on the sign, there was a painting that was made depicting that fight that happened out here. How much of it's based in fact, not 100% certain, but there has to be some truth to it for them to be putting a sign up out here to talk about this. And it has been written about on multiple occasions. Now I'll see if I can't find some more information about it. And if I do, I'll put that up here in this video.
right, well, there you go. That was a little bit on the Battle of Cowpens. If you ever have a chance, come out to this battlefield. It's a very fascinating place. Also, be sure to check out Charlie's channel, History with Waffles. I think he's going to be doing some stuff out here at Cowpens, as well as some other Revolutionary War battlefields that I'm not going to be getting to. But anyway, we've got a few stops left on this trip through South Carolina on the Liberty Trail. So we're going to pack up and head on to the next place.
So as we're closing out here with JD, History Underground. He's doing some of his final shots here for his Cowpens video. Just having a general good time walking around here at Cowpens.
Yes.
So what do you think?
Oh man, it's a fascinating battlefield. Now I know that The Patriot is not a documentary, but this is the battle that's depicted at the very end of that movie. So
yeah.
It's kind of cool for me as like a history nerd and also a movie nerd
right.
to come out and see where the two intersect. And you know, there are some things that the movie gets right and some a lot that it doesn't. But yeah, it's cool. The battlefield is like the three lines are much more compact than
yeah.
what I visualized.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the value in coming out, is you now have a greater understanding. I'll go back. I'll read some books and
yeah,
having walked the ground.
Get to see it for yourself, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
As long as you don't get lost in Tavington's eyes, you'll be all right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's been an absolute blast being back here in the Carolinas and bringing the story of this battlefield that meant so much to me when I was a kid to you. I hope that this does a lot more for this battle than it was portrayed in the recent Revolutionary War documentary, Ken Burns' documentary. I hope we cover this in a little bit better detail to kind of give you maybe the importance of the fight that happened out here and the movements of the troops and those soldiers that are so very important to not only this area, but to that American Revolutionary story. And we hope to bring a lot more in the future. Until next time, from the land of Cheerwine and Liver Mush, this is History with Waffles.
January morning, 1781. Frost on the ground neath the Carolina sun. Near Chesnee town where the tall grass bends, two armies meet where the backcountry ends. Red coats march with the pride of the crown. Blue coats wait though they've been beaten down. After hard luck days in the southern land, hope took shape at Cowpens stand. Oh, Cowpens, hear the freedom cry. A line bends low but will not die. With wit and will they turn the tide. An American victory side by side. From field to flame the truth still stands. Liberty was forged at Cowpens. British came with a southern plan for rice and indigo, tobacco and land. Gold from the soil grown by enslaved hands. Profits for London, or so they planned. They thought the South would rally the king, that loyalist ranks would their numbers bring. But threats and chains and broken trust turned hope for allies into dust. Oh, Cowpens, hear the freedom cry. The line bends low but will not die. With wit and will they turn the tide. An American victory side by side. From field to flame the truth still stands. Liberty was forged at Cowpens. At Cowpens. Backcountry burning, civil war, neighbor against neighbor, vengeance and gore. Militia riding through night and days. Green was sent to show the way. Nathaniel Green with a gambler's hand split his force across the land. Daniel Morgan sent south and west to cut the lines and put them to test. Cornwallis answered swift and hard. Samuel young Tarleton, feared and scarred. Wackshaws whispered of no quarter given, a ruthless name in the tales of the driven. 26 years of leading fast, sure of victory from battles past, but overconfidence rode that day straight into Morgan's careful play. Oh, Cowpens, hear the freedom cry, a line bends low but will not die. With wit and will they turn the tide, an American victory side by side. From field to flame the truth still stands, liberty was forged at Cowpens. Militia fell back just as planned, drew the British close at hand. Volley retreat, then turn once more, a double line the world ignored. When bayonets charged and sabers spun, the trap was sprung, the day was won. Tarleton fled in bitter shame, Morgan carved a lasting name. The law struck deep in the British South, cut the breath from Cornwallis' mouth. From Cowpens fields to Yorktown's wall, that winter day helped end it all. A swift, bright fight in a grassy glen proved the strength of citizen men against an empire trained and vast. They showed the future could break the past. Oh, Cowpens, sing through time and land of steady hearts and a daring stand. A southern field where fate was spun and independence had begun. From frostbit dawn to freedom's flame, we still remember Cowpens' name.